Well, good morning, everybody. Welcome to the Board of Directors meeting for the Niagara Peninsula Conservation Authority this Friday, December the 15th. We're going to do our call to order. First of all, can you take a roll call? Madam CAO.
Thank you, Chair. Chair Foster.
I'm here.
Member Beatty.
Here.
Member Clark. Member Cridland. Member Grant. Member Houston. Vice Chair Metcalf. Member O'Neill. Member Seaborn. Member Tardison. Six. Yeah.
There, now you're good.
Okay, good. For those of you at home, we're having a few minor technical glitches as we get started this morning. First of all, going to do our commentary at the beginning of the meeting here. So, the Niagara Peninsula watershed is situated within the traditional territory of the Haudenosaunee, Attawandaronk, and the Anishinaabe, including the Mississaugas of the Credit, many of whom continue to live and work here today. This territory is covered by the Upper Canada Treaties and is within the land protected by the Dish with One Spoon Wampum Agreement. Today, the watershed is home to many First Nations, Métis, and Inuit peoples. Through the 2021 to 2031 Strategic Plan, we reconfirm our commitment to shared stewardship of natural resources and deep appreciation of Indigenous culture and history within the watershed. Everybody's had an opportunity to look at the agenda. Are there any additions, subtractions, changes required within the agenda? I'm seeing none. Can I get Member Metcalf to move that we accept the agenda? And can I get Member Tadson to second that? And by the way, there was an addendum set out that we're going to be dealing with as well. So that's under Section 5 of correspondence. So I'm sorry, I should have mentioned that. So all those in favor? That is carried. Any declarations of conflict of interest this morning? Seeing none, we do have two sets of previous minutes. One is the minutes of the full authority meeting dated November 17th, 2023, as well as the closed session minutes that went on with that November 17th, 2023. Can I get Member Beatty to move? Member Houston, would you please second? Any questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? And that is carried. Chair's update. So a lot of things have been going on for the NPCA in the last little bit. I'm going to provide a few highlights that at least I've been involved with. So first and foremost, we were in a Conservation Ontario meeting just recently. That seemed to go very well. On the provincial side of things, there are agreements that are coming in place in and around watershed initiatives, in and around the Great Lakes watershed initiatives, in and around shoreline erosion and stuff like that. And Conservation Ontario is now becoming quite actively involved with that, which I think is a positive. All of the municipalities involved have signed the budgets, the MOU, I guess, is what we call our service level agreement. So that's a good sign for us at the NPCA. Region of Niagara, we passed our budget last night. That was a lot of fun, wasn't it? The budget is one of those things that is always a lot of fun. I can say there was no discussion last evening when the actual budget itself passed. Significant discussion had gone on at various points in time through it. The NPCA budget did not come under any particular scrutiny at any point in time. I want to just say to staff, you guys did a great job coming up with the budget that you did this year, and I can tell you is that we as regional councillors very much appreciated what it was that came through. So congratulations, and you have a budget, Madam CAO. So there we go. Had a meeting, Chandra and I, as well as Leilani. We had a discussion with the town of Lincoln in and around some issues in Jordan Harbor. There's a couple of outstanding cases that we're looking at, as well as the town of Lincoln is looking at. If you drive along the QEW, for instance, there's been some obvious dumping of aggregate in the one shoreline area. So anyway, those are being reviewed, and staff are following through with that. But the positive thing about the discussion with the town of Lincoln as we went through that, and I think it's for all municipalities that are within our watershed, is that we're open for business. We're going to be talking. There's lots of opportunities for shared services and MOUs, and I can tell you that anyway, that one with the town of Lincoln was very positive, and I know there's going on with others. So, last thing, we have an evaluation that we have to do for our CAO. I know you're excited about that. What I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be sending out a survey to all members of the board that I'm going to request that you do sometime between now and early January. And we'll be tying that together with Chandra's self-analysis that she's done, and we'll be looking at that at our board meeting in January. So, and then we'll be able to check that one off. In February. There's no January meeting. So we'll be able to check that off of our list. This morning we have a few items of correspondence. Does anyone wish to speak to any of these correspondence items on their own? Member Beattie?
Yes. To 5.1. Can somebody give me a short explanation of what permit by rule means? What is it? What are we dealing with? And more particularly, expand the use of permit.
Should I jump in? Is that okay?
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Chair, I do have Tom Prox, our source water protection and hydrogeologist specialist, online to speak to the correspondence, particularly from Quinty and the proposals for the ECAs and how that may affect the source protection program throughout Ontario. My understanding is this is a streamlined process where applicants to some extent become self-regulators. If they're low-risk activities, they're able to register those activities and seek some exemptions under the process to get those permits through the ministry. But I can hand it over to Tom for a bit more detail as it relates to our interests in source protection.
Thank you, Leilani. Can everyone hear me okay?
Yep, you're good.
All right, great. So thank you. And then through the chair to the member with the question. So I actually don't have a good explanation for what permit by rule means, but I can sort of summarize what what's happening here. So in the past, or how it has been, up until this EBR posting and change is that if there was a significant drinking water threat related to stormwater, then it would be typically regulated through what's called a prescribed instrument, which is usually an environmental compliance approval. So regardless of who owned the infrastructure for the stormwater management system, it would be subject to an environmental compliance approval, which is delivered through the province, the Ministry of Environment. They're the ones who issue those. So an organization would apply to them for the ECA, and then they would review it and ensure that if it was within a vulnerable area, in the case of source water protection, intake protection zones or wellhead protection area, then it would be subject to certain requirements that the ministry would prescribe to them. But now with this EBR change, they're adding an exemption to, and I have it here. The exemption is to stormwater management works that are privately owned, and they will not be assumed by the municipality. So it has to service the following activities, which are commercial, institutional, or light industrial. And if they do any processing, repair, maintenance activities are conducted indoors, or the materials stored outdoors are contained in a manner to restrict contact with stormwater. So it's or also multi-unit residential properties. So it's very specific, and it's only those that qualify for this exemption. All other stormwater management works are still subject to environmental compliance approvals. But the reason why the correspondence that you have the correspondence in front of you is because some project managers and other staff associated with source protection across Ontario are concerned that by adding this exemption, you're kind of removing that regulatory oversight that the ministry would provide in the past, where everyone was subject to the environmental compliance approval. So that's kind of like a little bit of Cole's notes. Happy to speak further if need be.
Okay, thank you. Member Beatty.
Yes, just to follow up on that. When I saw permit by rule, which I didn't understand, and it's a little clearer now. And then I looked at the county's correspondence of whereas. One thing kept coming to my mind. It's called Walkerton. Is there are we driving towards another possible Walkerton by doing this? Because I thought the Walkerton report was very clear on what you could and could not do. And this, is this any, are we jeopardizing any municipality's water by allowing to do this, either by giving them self-regulation, which I think Walkerton had, or doing something else? But when I read this, it just comes off the page at me. Am I imagining things? Am I overreacting? Or is there a possibility of this getting out of control? Thank you.
Leilani, do you want to... Leilani, did...
Through you, Mr. Chair, our source protection policies in the Clean Water Act continue to function for the purpose that they are. I think what Tom is speaking to, what the other conservation authorities have raised, is it seems that the province has identified these low-risk activities where there could be that more self-regulation and exemptions to permits. And I think, as Tom was saying, there is that concern that there may be those unintended consequences of not having that fulsome regulatory review for these permits, these compliance permits. But unfortunately, I wouldn't be in a position to fully critique what those potential impacts or results may be. And I know I would defer to Tom if there is any further insight on his end from the source protection.
Tom, do you have...
Yeah, I can put in a few more notes. So I agree completely with what Leilani said, and I understand the member's concern. And that, I believe, is the concern of other project managers across Ontario and other staff within source protection as well. anytime you're moving towards self-regulation, it's, the potential for, I guess, something like that to happen. But in this case, we're talking about stormwater management works for very, like Leilani said, low risk activities. So it's hard, like it's kind of, I guess they're just trying to strike a balance between, like complete oversight regulation and then a little bit of self-regulation where it might benefit, the users. I can say in our area, I'm not aware of any of those activities that exist currently within our vulnerable areas. All of our stormwater management significant threats are owned by the municipalities, so they're subject to ECAs anyways. And our policies that address those threats stand as they are. So I understand the concern. I just, and that is the concern of others, but I don't know that we need to be raising any alarm bells.
Before I go back to Member Beatty, and so I can tell you as a councillor, and all of us that are involved with the water systems, there's a very high degree of expectation of us to making sure, including up to and going into jail, making sure that the water systems are appropriate and being properly taken care of. So I'm just curious, like, is there a major concern from you on this?
Major and minor. When I read certain water taking activities, that to me extends to municipal water. And municipal water is always a concern because I know we do a fairly good job on all our plants and our review and everything else. But right across the province of Ontario, as was proven by Walkerton, I still don't think it's consistent. And maybe I'm just surprised that, given the history, that when the county puts all these whereases in there, that they didn't cite the Walkerton report. So I have a concern, but I understand you don't have a crystal ball. So I thank you.
Okay, thank you, Member Beatty. So we'll put the 4 items of correspondence onto the floor. So can I get Member Metcalf to move that and Member Seaborn to second that? So any other questions to any other of the pieces of correspondence this morning? Seeing none, all those in favor? And that's carried. Let us move to 6, which is presentations, and we have none. 7, delegations, and we have none. 8, consent items, we have none. So let us move into our discussion items for this morning. So the first discussion item is 9.1, Conservation Areas Infrastructure Update. And do you wish to take this one, Director Christie?
Sure, thank you. Through you, Chair. Just this is a board report updating on conservation area infrastructure, mainly an update on the Canadian Community Revitalization Fund projects. For those that don't recall, this is a $1 million project to improve several aspects of our passive conservation areas that saw a major increase since the pandemic in 2020. Those include improvements to 3 different parking areas, major improvements to accessibility, boardwalks and bridges, and as well as just overall trail improvement. So happy to take any questions on the report.
Member Houston.
Thank you, Chair. So I do have a number of questions. Let me just get to my questions. Hold on. Okay. If you don't mind, I'd like to. I'm hoping you can elaborate on the vandalism, and I think there might be some slides. Is that correct? Is that something we can look at? Oh, sorry, specific to St. John's. I'm going to be asking questions.
There you go. Thank you. I'd be happy to. Thank you. Through you, Chair. I can give a little bit of a view here. Let me just share my screen. So since, as I mentioned, since 2020, we started including trail trackers at all of our properties to get a really good sense of where are we and how many people are actually the increase using these sites. So I can give from here, you can see we've saw a massive increase from this slide here from 2021 that we see at St. John's, Rockaway, Beamer, Wood End. We're seeing close to 100,000 people using these conservation areas daily, which is a substantial increase from 2020. And we do deal with several non-permitted behavior at our parks. Admittedly, we don't document every single source of vandalism or not, but so these are just ones we had happened to have. These are all at St. John's. This is our new trail tracker at St. John's that we put in there that seemed like bashed in with a bat that we had to replace. And you can see from these graphs previously, such as St. John's, we have an old and new. It's because the old one was destroyed. When we get into, this is an example of an incident we dealt with not too recently of all of our garbage bins and picnic tables being thrown into the pond. As you can see, this was a voicemail we got and an email from our planning technician letting us, the staff, know about this incident. This was like 3 weeks ago. This was a memorial bench that we were installing for a family that had fresh new concrete, and somebody after hours came in and stomped all over it. It's going to cost about $2,500 to replace. This is the stuff we deal with all the time. This is our washroom building at St. John's. This is a massive, as you can see, graffiti that's all over the wall. That was not, had some substantial cost to fix. And then this is our washroom building. So this is another routine. As you can see here, we deal with graffiti, but also just plain destruction in the evenings at times. They broke in through the door. What you will not be able to notice here is fireworks were lit off in this washroom building, and we had to actually replace the ceiling of this building as well. You'll also notice that the partitions are different because those have been bashed in. We had to replace the partitions. So I don't want to reiterate that everybody's not coming here is misbehaving. It's a few bad that are unfortunately ruining it for everybody. The majority of people we see at our parks are very respectful and appreciative, but we find it's really the after hours. Our parks are open from dusk to dawn, and it's really that time after the sunset that we find that most of these non-permanent activities are taking place.
Thank you. Okay, we'll have to be mindful. Mic's on, mic's off. Thank you for that, because I wasn't even aware of the extent of damage. I mean, I've heard about some of the damage at Rockway in that, and I hope I'm okay to talk about this, in that barriers were put up to prevent some ATV traffic, and trees were intentionally cut down to make a path for ATVs to access unpermitted the park. So this behavior is going on. I wish it would not. These are beautiful areas that are accessible to the public, and I'm really disappointed to see that people are disrespecting the property in these ways. But I'm also hearing that it happens primarily, when you say after hours, is there a time, like what is after hours? Is it after 4? Is it after 6?
We don't have the exact times of these, but we can assume when we're leaving the park, doing any type of cleanup, our staff are usually done by 4. It's not then. So it's after the hours. We do have good relationships with the neighbors who tell us stories and give us updates of what's going on. And it seems to be usually more that, that dark, that 11 o'clock, midnight type time.
Thank you. I do have a couple questions, so I'm just going to keep going, Chair, if you don't mind. In terms of, I know that we're considering a pilot in terms of charging parking at the park, and we do have passes at the library. Can you tell me how many passes we have available at the library?
Thank you. Through you, Chair, we currently have 4 passes at our libraries, But these are based on demand and need. There's no set amount on how many we could have there. We will work with the libraries. If the libraries are seeing that they're continuing getting sold out and not having any, there's no maximum or minimum on the amount of library passes.
Okay, thank you for that. So just as a comparator, I know Binbrook has paid parking. Do we also have library passes available in that community, and what would be the comparison in terms of the number of passes to the traffic? Is that something you have an answer for me on?
Yes, my colleague Leisha Powell supports all of the passes at our building, but she is nodding her head that yes, we have them in the Hamilton Library as well.
Do we only have 4 though? Like I can't imagine. I imagine we would have more.
Once again, I imagine there's only 4 at the libraries. We could get an exact count of how many is, but like I mentioned, it's not a. We just started that a couple years ago. So if there was demand for more, if we got word, we usually meet with the libraries every year if they wanted more. It's not a conversation about a maximum or minimum. It's how many do they need.
This is fun. This is fun. But we also heard that there's potentially 100,000 people coming through, and if we want to keep this accessible, I'm not sure 4 passes is going to cut it. If I could put that, that's the nicest way I could put it. I know I'm going to, I guess, pass some comments now. This is a very important site for my community. I guess they got wind that there was an intention to start paying for parking, and I can tell you my community was very upset about it. And I'm going to acknowledge my mayor is here, Mayor Junkin and Councillor Olson, and I'm sure they're here to support what I'm going to talk about now. I'm going to highlight why this is problematic. The entrance to the park is in front of one private home. I do believe that if we implement this, that there will be parking on the street, and this will adversely affect one homeowner. That homeowner lives in Thorold, I think, technically. So Thorold would be dealing with all of those complaints as we would, but it also, I think it creates problems in terms of a negative relationship for the authority, a negative relationship with our neighbors. But I think that there's also going to be some parking along the laneway that comes into the park, which could be obstructed and creates a problem in itself. I did some calculations on how far the entrance to the park is to the closest intersection. It's about 3.5 kilometers. And that's 3.5 kilometers from that intersection to the park on a very windy rural road. If we're looking to try and implement a paid parking model by encouraging people to walk or ride a bike, it's a minimum of 3.5 kilometers. And what I'm hearing is there's a lot of families with young children, as well as seniors who like to use this area. And I don't think that it's realistic they're going to walk 3.5 kilometers at a minimum to get to the park or cycle that way, which I actually don't think the roads are that safe for cycling on its own. And the final thing I'm going to bring up is affordability. Implementing a pay for parking system here, and now, because I realize anything we do here could be changed by another iteration of a different board, but it does create a barrier in terms of people accessing this site. So I want to read for you some comments from one citizen who reached out to me, because I did ask for feedback from my community on this. And her feedback was, my husband's in a wheelchair. That's one area we can actually go to and get into without any barriers. We go to the first deck, we sit and watch the wildlife. It's just a chance to escape from all the noise and relax. We are both seniors living on pensions, so funds are limited. We're trying to stay in our home, but with expenses going up, it's more difficult. St. John's gives us a place to go and enjoy without financial restraints. Charging parking will change that for us for sure. Sorry, I'm getting a little dry here. So I'm going to ask that we take this off the table. I'm hoping that this board can shelf plans for St. John's at least during our term. You know, again, another board can make a different decision. But I think that there's a lot of, at this time when there's, I'm going to say, real affordability issues affecting our communities, and people really need to get outdoors and experience nature and benefit from the mental health benefits that come with that. So I think in order to do that, I would need to strike recommendation 2. Is that procedurally, Chair? I'm going to ask you, is that how you'd prefer for me to put this forward? Oh, sorry.
We got this lovely electronic bouncing around. Let's have a bit more discussion, and then we can make a decision on where we're going with this, because I'd like to actually have Director Christie and the CAO talk about this a bit further as well before we actually start making some decisions on this, if that's okay with you. And I will turn off.
Well, I will be asking for an amendment, and they can certainly speak to the amendment, but this is definitely something I want to put forward.
Have a report on the floor yet, so we're still in discussion. So I guess the question to Director Christie, you know, and of course I will add, and I know the CAO knows, I've talked to her about this issue on a number of occasions in the past while. And so what's the thinking process in and around this? Like, what is the staging that's going into play? Because you have two problems here. Well, a problem, and that is having people coming into the park at times that they shouldn't be coming in. So what's the logical way of going forward within that area?
Thank you. Through you, Chair. Yeah, it's kind of two different things. So one part of the project is to replace the current farm-style gates with a new modern automated gate system. That doesn't really change anything. We previously, for the last whatever years, have been looking to hire members of residents that are close by to open and close farm-style gates to prohibit this type of behavior. It's no longer efficient. We can't even find anybody to do these things, and because of it, it's really impacting. So putting in new gates, it's part of the project. That doesn't really have anything to do with the current striking. What I guess it would impact is just the overall sustainable management of the site. We've seen a substantial increase in use, a substantial increase in having to manage the conservation area. And I think going with that more of looking at equitable ways, but also some type of paid parking system would support that sustainable management of the property.
Okay, thank you. Do you want to say anything? No? Okay. Member Metcalf.
Thank you, Chair Foster. With these barrier-style gates, can we not program them so they don't go up at certain hours, and after certain hours they will go up?
Yeah, thank you. Through you, Chair. That's the whole reason. We will not need staff or members of the public. These are all can be done remotely. They can even be done by cell phone, programmed properly. They also speak to or correlate with our reservation software. So we imagine, such as St. John's, some of our other properties, there's high peak times that we might have to do a reservation system to get in. We're able to do that through our reservation system. So it's a new modern gate system. We have the same ones at Balls Falls and Bimbrook. So all interact with our membership passes, day use reservations, and everything of that sort.
Member Houston. Yep. Somebody's still got their thing on? Oh.
I'm good. So I just want to clarify, I am not suggesting we don't put gates there. I think the gates are totally necessary. We absolutely have a need to, you know, at times close the park when we need to do maintenance. Of course we need to do that. And from what I've heard in terms of the the vandalism, we should be closing it in the evening and keeping it closed and restricting vehicle access from that perspective. What I'm suggesting is I'd like to take the paid model off the table for this term of the board. And my understanding is that's item 2, and that's what I'm suggesting as an amendment to strike item 2. If that's the correct, I just want to make sure I'm getting at the correct outcome by taking that action.
I think, yeah, that's fine. I think we have to be careful what we're doing with that, because the pilot is putting the gates up. Whether it's paid or not, that's another part of this. Is that not correct, Director?
Through you, Chair, we would like to put the gates up regardless. That's part of the project. But I would leave it to you to see how to word number 2 if that's the chosen from the board.
Okay, thank you. Member Beattie, oh, sorry, please go ahead.
Question to staff. Would it be better to refer this back to you until the gates are installed? And that way you take the paid park out of it until you can come back and say the gates are installed, and then present the pilot project for discussion?
Through you, Chair, I think either way, I don't know if there's a preference, but that could be something that we would be open to for sure. Well, I would leave it in your direction.
Testing, 1, 2, 3. So if the chair will allow, and Diane, I didn't know how to address you at the table. I was going to say Member Houston. If the chair would allow, I think you just refer it back to staff until the gates are installed, so that we can go ahead with installing the gates. But the pay model is off the table until then, and we can have further discussion. I would so move if allowed.
Sorry, point of order, Chair. So I've asked to put amendment forward. We are dealing with FA 5223. You did put it on the floor for discussion. Oh, then I'll move it. Yeah.
I'll second it, yes. Get it on the floor. I thought it was on the floor.
So now Member Beattie is requesting that we refer this back to staff.
Yeah, but I'll defer.
Okay. Go ahead.
Yeah, so I see the gates and the paid pilot as 2 separate things. What I'd like to amend this report is to remove the paid pilot. So if that's striking number 2, or if that's just me saying that, that's what my intentions as an amendment are.
So I think it's fair to be putting forward saying remove the paid parking pilot in Pelham. Okay. Member Metcalf, would you second what Councillor Houston?
Absolutely, and I'd fully support the non-payment at this point, but the automated gates, absolutely. So fully in support of Member Houston's comments, remarks, and motion.
So to handle this properly then, that's a requested change at this point in time, and that's been duly moved and seconded. So all those in favor of this modification? And that is carried. And so now we will deal with the report itself, and we'll put that, and we have it on the floor as well. So all those in favor of this report as amended? Yeah. And that's carried.
Chair, can I just,
Well, my understanding is another term of this board could change this decision. So I don't think we need to put it in. If another term of the board wanted to lift this and reconsider it, so be it. But for this term of the board, I'd like this to be the policy.
Yeah, so it's the elimination this term. And we would have to do a reconsideration if we were to decide to change that anyway. So yes, that's appropriate. Okay. So we've completed that. Let's move on to our next item. And that is report number FA 5123, full authority board meeting dates for approval. Everybody good with the dates that are coming up? Well, we're going to have to go on hold just for a second because with member Metcalf out of the room, we don't have quorum. So we'll just wait for a second. We're going to take a brief 2-minute timeout because we got lots of bright light shining on our stuff here. We need to change that. Okay, we're back again. Let's move to, again, our full authority board meeting report. So are there, so first of all, we'll put it on the floor. Member Seaborn, would you move this report? And Member Taddison, would you second it, please? Are there any questions or any comments about the board meeting schedule? Okay, seeing none, all those in favor? There we go. You're now all committed to a whole series of meetings for this upcoming year. No, none. It's referred to as fan duel, okay? Like we do the betting. So, our third report this morning is the Niagara Escarpment Biosphere Request for Support, which is FA 5323. With that, CAO Chandra, do you wish to make any comments?
Good morning, through you, Chair. As you know, we have been, as a conservation authority, doing our part in keeping the protections in place for the Escarpment Biosphere Reserve, and NEB, the network, right now have a governance structure set up. NPCA staff have been participating in their meetings, and we are fully supportive of this request that has come through them for their continued efforts towards the UNESCO Biosphere designation. So we're supportive of that.
Great, thank you. So, Member Metcalf, can I get you to move this report? And Member Hewson, would you please second it? Any questions to the report or to the CAO on this? Member Hewson.
Thank you, Chair. I'm just wondering what does this involve in terms of our level of collaboration, or what kind of work will we be working directly with them, and in what capacity?
So through you, Chair, at this point, they haven't asked for any specific supports other than supporting this. They, as a governance body, will continue to make efforts in making their submissions. If they ask for any supports, we'll be happy to offer. There has been no request for any financial contribution or work otherwise, but we do know that the work we are doing in all of our conservation areas are contributing, and that will all go into the submission.
So just as a follow-up, this organization would, we'd probably, like any of the other NGOs we'd work with, they could qualify for some type of funding, or we might be able to partner in a project and leverage that access to funding for some work that we may be interested in.
Thank you, Member Hewson. Anyone else with any questions? Seeing none, all those in favor? That is carried. We have one set of committee reports this morning, and that's from the PAC committee, and the minutes dated from November the 30th. Member Beattie, can I get you to move that? Member Seaborn, could you please second that? Any questions to the minutes or the motion? Seeing none, all those in favor? And that is carried. There's no motions. Does anyone have a notice of motion they'd like to bring forward this morning? Seeing none, new business. We'll start with a verbal update from the Niagara Peninsula Conservation Foundation, and I'll turn this to our chair, Member Hewson.
Thank you, Chair. So just a reminder, our Director's Challenge continues until the end of the year, so there's a couple more days left to get in on that challenge. I know we've had 47% participation, which is really exciting. So we're, if we can even bump that up further, I would encourage you to do so. We do have a concert next week too. The Winter Solstice concert is on December the 20th. So far there's 85 out of 100 tickets sold as of Monday. Hoping that will sell out. Should be a fun event. Get some tickets if you don't have them yet. Is that here? That's here, correct? Yes, it is here. There was an interview on Mike Balls on your TV Niagara about the event, and I'm sure staff can help you locate the link for the tickets if you need them. We also are now a member of the Hamilton Chamber of Commerce, so we can access the member directory or attend functions and events. And we will be attending the Niagara Funders Roundtable on January 26th. And there was a promotional video for the Comfort Maple by Niagara College students, which I understand will be shared in the new year. So thank you to everyone who continues to support the foundation, and we look forward to continuing some good work.
Thank you, Member Hewson. Any questions to Diana on that? Member Seaborn.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Member Hewson, how do we go about making a contribution to the foundation for the Director's Challenge?
So you can contribute through Canada Helps. However, there is a small charge for us if you do that, or you can just get in touch with Sharon, I guess. Sharon over here will happily come over and grab a check off you today. Just kidding. No, no. Yeah, but if you're donating online, I would just let staff know so they can keep an eye to add you to our directors list. Thank you.
Yeah, I personally like using Canada Helps as it goes on. So, and by the way, that was a nice touch sending out the letter afterwards. That was very nice. Thank you. So, yeah.
Thank you.
Yes.
So just to Member Seaborn there, if you go on the Niagara Peninsula Conservation Foundation webpage, you will see a donation tab if you want to donate that way. Yeah, thank you.
That takes you directly. Does anyone else have any new business this morning they'd like to bring up? Member Hewson.
I'm not sure if you were going to say this, but I just want to wish everyone a very happy holidays. And I got to sit beside Santa today.
You'd be a great Santa, Stu.
You should have seen me last week. The beard was down to here. But that's because I sell Christmas trees. Ho, 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 and Merry Christmas.
Yeah, thank you, and you know, to all the staff for all of the great work you've done this year. Thank you very much. It's been very much appreciated by all of us, and we look forward to an incredibly good 2024 as we move forward. Member Metcalf, please go ahead.
Just under new business, and not to steal any of Stu's business or thunder away, but there is a project or a program in London, Ontario, where they rent a live Christmas tree in a pot. And I know I'm sorry, Stu, like I said, I don't want to take any commerce away from anyone, but for an environmentally sustainable situation, you rent the Christmas tree, you take it back. When it reaches a certain height, they plant the Christmas tree. So I thought that was something new that I've seen online with I don't know if it's a City of London or a nursery in that area that's doing that, but rental trees. So
Thank you, Sharon. Another idea. Rent a tree. Member B.
We took it from a different perspective. You can buy trees that size, and that size, and then you plant it in the spring. We do have that option.
Okay. Great. So with no other new business, and we don't have a closed session, and with that, we're going to do an adjournment. Thank you very much. See you next year.